Welcome back to Play Studios, everyone. Ryan here. Today, yet another Canadian amplifier builder gets the neural DSP treatment, but now looking backwards in time to perhaps what could be considered the progenitor of modern high-gain amplifiers with the Soldano SLO-100. There's a lot to go over in this video, but frankly, not a lot of it has to do with the plugin itself, given the nature of this amplifier model and the accessories it was packaged with. If you've seen one neural DSP plugin by now, you've seen them all, and that holds even more truthfully for these individual amplifier suites. It's basically like the Omega Ampworks or the Fortin stuff with a different amplifier and some complementing effects, although I feel a little underwhelmed with this plugin as a whole, given the different effects that it is packaged with, and quite frankly, with the amplifier itself. I'm admittedly not the biggest SLO fan in the world, although I think it is an extremely important amplifier in the history of guitar tube amps and continues to be. There's some people that make them sound absolutely fantastic. It's just for my needs, I would rather plug into a myriad of other different amps that cost a whole hell of a lot less money. But just like with the previous incarnations of their amplifier suite plugins, it makes a whole hell of a lot more sense from a bedroom guitarist or mixer standpoint to purchase a $120 plug-in version of this amplifier that does a really good job of emulating it than, $3,000 to $4,000 on one of these extremely loud amplifier heads. But before I give a quick overview of things and return to the audio demonstration, there is something pressing that we need to talk about with this plugin, because I'm kind of confused as to why it even exists in at least this $120 USD package here. And it boils down for several reasons. Number one, with the Fortin amplifiers and the Omega Ampworks, and presumably some of the stuff that will be coming up in the future, those are not amplifiers that are modeled anywhere else. So, Neural DSP kind of has the exclusive place to get the digital Fortin sound, besides, Kemper profiles or stuff like that. So it makes sense to me why anyone, whether you have a hardware amp modeler or not, you use exclusively DAW plugins, that you might want to go out and purchase one of those things. And that's why I recommended it to basically anyone that likes the tone of it. With the SLO, this thing has been done to absolute death by everyone. We're talking from the original Line 6 pod onwards. In fact, this isn't even the first time that Mike Soldano has put his name on an amplifier. Look here, Amplitube 4.5 as the Soldano SLO-100 officially licensed model. Now, I'm not going to bullshit you. I think the Neural DSP one absolutely destroys this. It's no contest, but what I'm saying is I don't exactly put faith in, Soldano having their name on a product and thinking, oh, it has to sound just like the amp then if it's officially licensed. Not necessarily the case. Not to mention the unofficial competition like Nimbrini's BST-100, which is a little more expensive and has a few different features, but it sounds within the ballpark of the amplifier. So if you already own that, there's no reason to buy this. You've got Poulen's free alternative, which once again is not going to be up to the same quality standards given that it's freeware, but it sounds better than it probably should for being freeware. And if you're like me and only need an SLO tone every now and then, it's not a bad option to consider if you don't care about literally all the other stuff in this plugin, and there's a good chance that you shouldn't. I'll explain why momentarily. But that, ladies and gentlemen, isn't even the best part. Not only is there fierce VST competition with this amplifier, some of which have the Soldano name on them, not only does most of the competing amp modeling hardware out there come pre-packaged with an SLO-100 sound, and there's probably a lot of you that already own one of those, so you can just use that. It's been kind of a staple for the past 20 years. But Neural DSP's own Quad Cortex has the SLO-100 lead and crunch channels modeled in its amplifier list. What? In a world where Neural DSP's plugin business and its hardware business were completely separated, this would be no big deal. We wouldn't even be talking about it. The conundrum here is that they've already said that you'll be able to load, at least in the future, all the archetype suites and all these individual plugins onto the Quad Cortex, meaning that there is no built-in, NTS or Kali or Nameless or Omega Granifier on the unit. You'll have to buy those separately, but you can still use it on the actual unit itself or on the desktop, which is already a little muddled. I don't particularly care for having to charge extra for a device I've already paid $1,600 for extra amplifier tones, but whatever. This, though, opens a whole new can of worms. So are we saying that there's two different SLOs? One on the Quad Cortex, one here? Are we saying that one of them sounds better or more accurate than the other? Are they just plain different? Are you going to have two in the list? Is it actually just the exact same amp models as the Quad Cortex plus a clean channel that's being ported over to a plugin? I don't know. And as of right now, so recording this video, there are no answers on that. And I don't know that many people are asking that question because however you slice it, it doesn't set a good precedent. There's only really a few options I could foresee happening with this. Either A, they're going to lock us out from being able to port this to Quad Cortex at all, which might be the most rational thing here, honestly. B, they're going to attempt to officially license as many of the amp models they've already built into Quad Cortex and then just port them over to make free money, basically, out of these standalone units, which I don't particularly care for. It's not the worst thing in the world, but that would kind of mean they're not going to just port a Quad Cortex desktop version, which is what I would love to see, and just have all their models and effects and the same way, you can get Helix Native on. Or C, we're going to have this weird ecosystem where there's a superior version and an inferior version of the same amp sound. So I don't know what's what. I would love to hear from you guys, maybe someone that is more close to Neural DSP as to what the hell the rationale is here. With all that out of the way, let's get back into the plugin itself, and I'll let you guys be the judge on the sound quality here. So it's the same basic layout we've seen for, well, years at this point now, which is kind of crazy to say. You got the amplifier itself, which is accurately modeled in terms of the channel layouts. I would have liked to seen them separate the crunch and clean like they did with Kali, but not the biggest gripe in the world. You got a pre-amplifier section with a compressor, two different types of overdrives. One's your basic tube screamer derivative. One kind of sounds like more of a hard clipping circuit. It's got like a high shelf. It stacks well. They sound fine. Nothing completely fancy. Got a chorus just like the archetype Gojira has. It seems to me they are incapable of releasing these things out of order. It's like as soon as they put a compressor in one or a chorus in one, like the very next plugin's the one they're going to also use the chorus on, which is kind of funny. Whatever the case, we also have the graphic EQ that comes back, which I'm just here to say that it still isn't in the Fortin amplifiers. I don't know why. It would make a fine addition. It makes sense, but it's here on the SLO. You got the matching Soldano cabinet. I'm not sure what speaker this is. It could be V30s, T75s, K100s, any variety of creamback or greenback. Hell, could be, EVM 12Ls. I'm not 100% sure. Either way, it's a complementing sound to the amplifier, and you've got your usual suspects in the microphone list. And finally, the echo section, which at least there is a delay and reverb in this plugin, because the Fortin stuff, nor the Omega Ampworks plugin has those. So definitely no complaints there. These just aren't very novel effects. It's a basic digital sounding delay with tone control, no tape saturation, no Bucket Brigade sounding stuff. It's got ping pong, it's not true stereo, and kind of a basic reverb that, frankly, to me, doesn't have enough pre-delay control. I would like to be able to shift that back and forth a little bit, but it's fine. This is a very 80s sounding collection of effects to complement this amplifier, which I think works. What do I think of this SLO-100 package then? It sounds good. I don't think there's ever going to be a point where I say a neural DSP product sounds unusable or just sounds objectively bad. What I can say is that whether it be because of the complexity of the modeling here, or maybe it's just the new factor has wore off over the past year or so, whatever the case, I can say that this plugin, and in hindsight, in some ways the Gojira plugin, even though I really like the sounds out of that one, they don't have the wow factor that maybe Nameless, NTS, Plenty, even through Nolly in a lot of ways. This one, and to some extent Gojira, do sound a little more stuffy, if you will, a little more congested, where I find myself having to consistently tweak with the graphic EQ to achieve the air and the resonance that I'm expecting out of an amplifier like this. And obviously I don't have the real thing sitting next to me, but listening to some of the comparisons next to a real thing, you know, you could tweak the potentiometers a little more and get closer. But there is a quality of this amplifier that is just not really captured in this plugin. And I can't really say the same thing for some of their earlier ventures. You know, I really forget a lot of the times when I'm playing Nameless or even some of the past archetypes that I'm plugging into a computer. I just forget. It is that convincing. This one though, I was well aware the entire time that I was plugged into a high gain amplifier sim. Now with that said, the clean and crunch channels sound fantastic and there's some really great dynamics to be had there. But compared to like my Axe-Fx products, or I hate to say it, even the Kemper, and to some extent even the Line 6 Helix and Pod Go, I feel like the lead channel is just missing something. So maybe I'm off base there, but maybe some of you could feel the same. I can overlook a less than stellar amplifier section if the effects make up for it, but quite frankly, I'm feeling a little less than inspired by the same onslaught of overdrives and compressors and echo sounds. And of course, I would miss them if they weren't here, but I think we're at the point that we need to start talking about an integrated launcher, because a lot of this stuff is just so very redundant, or at the very least, I would prefer to use the delay pedal from, say, Archetype Corey Wong with this, or the Fort and Grind with the, you know, the amplifier here. Whatever mixing and matching you'd like to do would be a great premise if they made a unified launcher where you could buy, you know, effects pack A, B, and C, an amplifier, D, E, and F, and, you know, move all those things around the way you want to, because you can do that now. It just takes several plugins in the chain to accomplish that, which is kind of wasteful. If there wasn't so much overlap between these amp-focused products, I probably wouldn't have even considered that as an option. But as it is, I think we're okay with just the 1 or 2 Tube Screamer derivatives and 3 or 4 delay pedals as is. It's getting a little stale, to say the least. So, it sounds like an SLO for the most part. It's just nothing to write home about compared to some of their previous offerings. Not to knock their modeling job here, like I said, it fills the role, you know. I simply can't say that I really think that this deserves to exist, given the sea of competent competition out there, just kind of treading the same ground on top of the ground that we've already tread. So that's about that. Maybe not what everyone wanted to hear, but that's what I truly feel. So let me know what you think down below. If you have any other questions or comments, as always, I'll try to get back to you. Thank you so very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.